this is Jay Mitchell, and we are back with another episode of the Libertarian Uncensored podcast, going over all the posts on the Libertarian Uncensored subreddit. Let's get right into it. So first we have Supreme Court to decide legality of GOP-mandated internet usage tracking this month from thecentersquare.com. That was posted by CH4Locks, and that's a cross post from the technology subreddit. And yeah, I personally don't care for the actual title is Supreme Court decided on fate of porn bans this month, but this is one of the big the subreddit's becoming increasingly blue and on over the years. So increasingly they'll try to find any way to say GOP bad and any option they can, even though a lot of Democrats sponsored the bill as well. But yeah, regardless, I don't think the government should be telling people how they can and can't use the internet. I personally don't care for porn. I think it's bad for you, but if you wanna do it, watch it, I think you should be able to. And it's the same for smoking and drinking. I personally wouldn't do those, but if you want to do them, you should be able to. And I don't think the government should be should be implementing rules or age verification systems for the internet. I think it's the parents' job to verify to make sure what their kids are because their kids are not going on porn sites rather than that of the state. I think it's good intention, but I don't think the state should be running people's lives, and that includes on the internet. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have disgraced Texas cop fires for giving a homeless man poop sandwiches back in uniform in New City from nypost.com by Legio. I was supposed to buy Legio X. And yeah, it just goes to show you how a lot of the people who have the state, a lot of people who are responsible for the state enforcement of law aren't that upstanding characters, and that's why you should always question them. You never know what they can get away with. Even if they do get fired, they can always go to a new city like this guy did here, and I think that's very important to note. Then we have Welcome to Stage 2 by CH, posted by CH4Locks, and that's cross post from the Facepalm subreddit, and that's a Blue Sky post from Katie Fang. Read this and then read it again. Washington, incoming senior Trump administration officials have begun questioning career civil servants who work within the White House National Security Council about who they voted for in the 2024 election, their political contributions, and whether they have made social media posts that could be considered incriminating by President-elect Donald Trump's team, according to U.S. official familiar with the matter. And yeah, I don't know if I'd be as stringent like that, but if they want to be as stringent like that, I think they should be able to do so. Donald, the president, is essentially seen as the boss of the government, and if he wants to fire you for any reason, ultimately, it should be his prerogative to do so. And yeah, I personally think that's probably why you shouldn't rely on government jobs, because the government might turn on you at any second if you do a wrong thing, and this is an example of that. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Here Comes the Debt Ceiling Exploding from Donald Key, and that's crosspost from the Fluent and Fire and subreddit, and that's a tweet from Justin Amash. Imagine you and your spouse are hugely in debt from overspending, so you call a meeting and agree each of you will spend more. That's Congress. And yeah, I definitely do agree we should cut back government spending, but sadly I don't think that's at all realistic. One day the fall of that's going to come, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have National Conservatism Conference panelist confirms age verification laws are path to total porn ban from xbiz.com by Ninja Lover, and that's a cross post from the technology subreddit. And yeah, as I said, I don't really care for porn, but porn's practically a religion on Reddit. But with that being said, if people want to do it, they should be able to do so. And yeah, I guess the child porn should be banned. But even then, I definitely don't think any government rule over the internet is that good in the long term. And yeah, that's my thoughts on that issue. I think it's very well intentioned. I think porn's kind of destroying our society and making people a lot less empathetic in regards to a lot of sex and gender issues. But I don't think it's the government's job to regulate the internet. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have former coworker wants young adults to join military to forgive debts, faults from Ragnarok XG, and that's a post they made, and that was a picture of freedom isn't free, but you're living in a free country. Time to pony up and serve, and then it's a billboard. How to solve student debt problem before given in exchange 4 years of military or national service. And I guess that would be I'd be fine with that. I personally think as long as it's voluntary rather than forced, you should be able to the government should be able to offer whatever it wants to. But yeah, I think if taxpayers want their money going into having people register for the military, that they should be able to do so. But yeah, it's also important to remember a lot of young people these days can't serve in the military due to medications they're on. I've tried to register, but they won't let me because I'm on an SSRI. But regardless, I do think if the program does have public support, I do think the government should implement it as long as no one's forced to do anything that they don't want to. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Danish intelligence. Russia forged letter to spark Trump's Greenland purchase bid from EuroMaidenPress.com by LegioX. And yeah, I personally don't care for Trump and the whole Greenland circle jerk. But with that being said, anytime they need to blame the left needs to blame somewhere other than Trump. It's always Russia, Russia, Russia. Eventually, you gotta catch on. It's like the boy who cried wolf. It's the Democrat who cried Russia, and you can't just say everything I don't like is Russian disinformation. It's like blame Canada from South Park movie, only instead it's blame Russia. And eventually, they gotta learn to take responsibility rather than just blame everything on Russia. But I don't think that's ever gonna happen. And that's my thoughts there. Then we have the right is trying to manufacture a consensus for an annexation of Greenland with a biased, low-quality, pro-Trump polling company posted by Shadowleer, and that's an article they posted from, I don't know where it's from, thehill.com. It looks like they tried to use a poll from Patriot Polling. And yeah, ultimately I think if anyone wants to use, I think all polls are used to manufacture narratives to some degree, so I think if anyone wants to put out any poll for any reason, they should be able to do so. And if you want to say, oh, it's a low-quality pro-Trump polling company, that means it's illegitimate, you should be able to do so as well. But it's the same thing. But if other people want to say that your polling companies are illegitimate as well, they should be able to do so. Especially since for the past 3 presidential elections, the polls have consistently underestimated Donald Trump. So it just goes to show you that polls are more just narrative generators than anything else. And that's my thoughts on that issue. But, ultimately, I do think, if you want to make a poll for any reason, you should be able to do so. And if you don't want to manipulate it for any reason, you should be able to do so. I think it all falls under freedom of speech and freedom of expression. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have drone flying drug gang seize control of prison airspace from Yahoo.com by Ninja Lover. And yeah, I don't think that's good, but that's how sometimes the world works. Sometimes unscrupulous people are going to take control of stuff and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's my thoughts on that issue. Then we have Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act of 2023, posted by Will Forgot Password, and they linked to the Congress page for the bill, and they said, be safe out there. And my thoughts on that are I personally don't think biological males should be competing in biological female sports. But with that being said, I don't think it's the government's job to regulate that. I think it's the job of each individual, and that's my thoughts on that issue. I think a big problem is that a lot of athletes in the U.S. are school athletes for public schools and public universities, and I think that's why people are trying to say that it's the government's job. Well, in reality, I think the government's job is to get out of education, sports, and everything else that shouldn't be involved in the first place. And that's my thought on that issue. Then we have Israel's Genesis Prize Award to Argentinian President Javier Milei from APNews.com by Ninja Lover. And they added, during his year in office, Milei announced he will move the embassy to Jerusalem, joining a small group of countries that recognize and contest the city as Israel's capital. He has supported Israel in the United Nations and played to bring justice for wrongs of Israel and Jewish rights in Argentina in the 1990s. Milei said he was honored to receive the prize and praised what he said was the resilience of the Jewish people. This spirit is the connection, a cornerstone of the relationship between Argentina and Israel, and I will work to further strengthen our ties. And yeah, that's probably one of the biggest issues I disagree with Milei on. I think Israel, it's not a state of the United States, just like it is in the province of Argentina. I think, if he wants to support Israel, I think he should be able to do so. But there are a lot of people who don't want to support Israel, and I don't think they should be forced to do so if they don't want to. I personally think, we need to let Israel handle themselves. But sadly, Israel's pretty much attached itself to the U.S. as a 51st state at this point, so I don't know if that's too realistic to expect, especially since Israel pretty much controls the entire U.S. government through IPAC, and that's my thoughts on that issue. And I think, and it's interesting how Thomas Massie, one of the only anti-Israel Republicans in Congress, just lost his committee positions for opposing Mike Johnson as Speaker, and his wife also just died. And I don't know, maybe that could be Mossad on the more conspirational side, but you never know these days. Maybe Israel's even worse than we think. So yeah, I say, if I were president, I would just cut ties with Israel. Say, Israel, you're on your own. You've run our country for too long, and that's my thoughts there. So yeah, but I guess Malay feels differently, and I guess that's on him, and that's my thoughts there. Then we have Donald Trump to issue executive crypto policy orders on first day in office from Ground News by Doctor Who 07. And yeah, I personally think crypto should be unregulated, but so I don't think the president or the government should be issuing any orders about it at all. But if they want to justify doing so, that's on them. And yeah, I personally think it needs to be unregulated and uncontrolled by the state, though, because we need to get the state out of our money, and I think that's a big part of what crypto is, having a non-state controlled currency. And that's my thoughts on that issue. And yeah, I think we're gonna wrap it up there. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.